Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Alice and today I'm going to be talking about the 8 books that I read during April 2021. The first book that I read this month was called Cat's Eye by Margaret Atwood. I rated this 2.5 stars. It was all about the psychological impact of childhood bullying and I did feel some empathy for the character. However, the book was over 500 pages and there was no real storyline. But the writing was good, there was just no real story. The next book that I read was called Everything I Know About Love, and it was written by Dolly Alderton in 2019. I only rated this 1 star, which was my lowest rating for the month, but I just couldn't get into the story. It wasn't really a story, but I didn't really feel online with the character because she was sort of binge drinking and had lots of failed relationships and problems during her 20s, so it was quite a self-indulgent book. Yeah, but there is 4,600 reviews on Amazon, so you might enjoy the book. It just wasn't for me. The next book that I read was called The Cold, Cold Ground by Adrian McKinty. I rated it 4 stars, and it was all about a detective called Sean Duffy, who was a Catholic detective working in Northern Ireland during the 1980s. So it followed his time as a detective and he was trying to solve the mystery of a murder. So it was interesting to see what it was like during the Troubles from that sort of perspective. And I did learn things about that time period. Next I read a book called You Let Me In, written by Camilla Bruce in 2020. I rated this 3 stars. It was a very weird book. I don't tend to read these sort of unusual, haunting horror books, but it was all about a woman with psychiatric illness living in the woods, and during her childhood she had been bothered by fairies, in particular one called Pepperman, which only she could see. So when she killed her husband, this psychiatrist wrote a book about how she'd had a disturbed childhood, but she believed that it wasn't disturbed, it was these fairies. Yeah, so it was a very weird story, and it was a bit just strange. So I got into it the more I read. At first I was like, oh, this is a bit strange, but then I did get into it. The next book that I read was called No One Is Too Small to Make a Difference. So it was a collection of Greta Thunberg's speeches, which I didn't realise initially because I was wondering why bits were being repeated, but it was quite obvious it was her speeches, and I rated this 3 stars. It was a very small book and quick to read. I think it took me about half an hour. Yeah, she's very passionate about the environment and I can see her points, yes. The 6th book that I read was called Marion Keyes, and it's called Grownups. It was published last year and I was very keen to read it because I'd seen it in like the bestseller lists and being advertised. However, at £20 it was a bit expensive, so I'm pleased that I got it from the library. I rated it 4 stars. Initially it was very hard to get to grips with all the characters because there were a lot of characters, like more than 20 characters and different stories relating to each characters. However, once you get into it, as long as you read quite a lot in one go, rather than just a few pages here and there, you should be able to grasp the story. And it was really interesting to see a Irish family and their life and the different, how they are all entangled within each other. Yeah, and there's also a bit about eating disorders and bulimia, which was interesting. And then also like one of the wives falls for the other one's son, and these different stories. So I would recommend it if you want a sort of easy reader, but there are a lot of characters, which is its downfall. The next book that I read this month was by Jojo Moyes and it's called The Giver of Stars. I rated this 3.5 stars. It has got a lot of ratings on Amazon. I saw 31,000 reviews. It was a good book. It's all about the power of friendship. So why I wanted to read this book was because the main character was called Alice, like me, and she liked horses like me, and also she likes books like me. So it's all about setting up a library in Kentucky. I think it was Kentucky. Yeah. So it follows her on her journey and the failure of her marriage and what happens during her time. So it was a little bit tedious, but it was alright. Okay, and the final 8th book that I read this month I still have with me. So it's called Leaving Yesterday Behind, and it's by William Hines. It's a Christian book. I had some issues with it, so I only rated it 2 stars. For example, it says if you neglect God's commands, it can lead to emotional problems such as fear, depression, anxiety, impotence, eating disorders, panic attacks, psychosis, and things like that, which I do not agree with necessarily. But it's good because it talks about the dynamics of forgiveness and how to avoid self-pity. Yes, so I'm not sure about this book. Okay, that is it. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up, and remember to leave any comments below if you have any questions or things you want to say. Bye.